Hello everyone, just another quick equities video. As I've done before, when I'm wanting to know where the indices may be going, and particularly if they're at a support or resistance, I want to see if the equities themselves are generally in line, to try and give some guidance on these, whether they're likely to break out or not, particularly with the structures we have at the moment. So I won't go into too much detail on these. You can read about that in my channel if you haven't already. Get a drink. So as we know, most of these have come off a decent demand at the lows. So we've got DJI at the 6 month, SPX at 2 month, UKX is at an annual level, but it's a bit ropey because it's got so much chop and it's broken down a fairly significant level up here, which it's just fighting to get back above now. EU I think was a 3 month. Australia is an annual level overall, this big grey, but is only a daily within it, but still a decent level, and its swing failed the lows. And the only one that I don't like was NSX, and it's weaker accordingly. Like, it has come off this 3-week level here, but it's broken through a whole monthly, so I don't particularly love it, and I wanted it down by the 10k mark, or even, if it was going to match everything else, quite a lot lower, about 9k. And I haven't really followed these for long enough to know. Like, I know they mostly work in concert with each other, and that's why I always look for confluence, but they don't always. And like I say, you can see DJI here has been strong since the 3rd of October, whereas NSX, SPX dropped lower, and NSX hasn't challenged the highs yet, whereas the early October highs, whereas DJI is now well over it. At the upper end, we have now DJI, where it's hit monthly supply here, and now we've hit the weekly inside it, which alerted this morning. All the others are at or in monthlies, and they'd already hit them. DJI was just the last to hit. All the others now on second hits and potentially like coming into weeklies inside, etc., etc. So that was why I had all the alerts that went out this morning. A few didn't quite get hit, so SPX and NSX actually wanted a touch higher, but it is what it is. Australian dollar I also wanted a little bit higher, didn't quite hit the alert there, but again, it has swing failed the highs, so tentative. EU I think didn't quite hit the level, but also did hit the alert. UKX also hit a long alert. So UKX was probably the only one, for some reason I had a more aggressive long entry on it. I think just the structure was a bit different. The weekly's higher, so I just went a more aggressive long entry. So we came off the short entry straight down into the long entry, and a really good bounce on that. So 2 nice trades there from this morning if you took them. And all the others are pretty much given scalps off the highs if they hit. DJI has now come a bit higher in the zone and hit a monthly level just above, so still tentative as to what that's going to do. And then all also, except DJI, made weekly demand. So that was why my entries on some of these were less aggressive. And when I looked at it actually afterwards in hindsight, and after we got today's bounce, they virtually all, again except DJI, which is stronger, they all came off this daily immediately below. Australia was cleaner, so yeah, not surprising that they've bounced where they did, and up for that second test. So yeah, like I said, I don't want to go into too much more detail on that. So the TLDR version is we're at resistance, and we've come from high time frame support, and do the equities support further move up, i.e. breaking some of this resistance, or at least coming into the upper end, because all these zones are quite large, particularly obviously monthlies and weeklies, or are we going to go down and retest weekly, daily demands below, or just break down again? So I'm sort of having a brief look at these, but I've only looked at the first few, and I want to stick with high time frame, so do the usual quick run through. So I mean the analysis I did a few weeks ago, yeah, I think it was around up here, and we were looking for this test back down in the weekly, which has held, so hence why we've got the bounce on everything. So Amazon's a little bit tentative, we've come off 3 month demand, so that's good, it's come back for the retest, it has made a higher low, so I just want to see that trend continue, so again back into the weekly and a move up to the next weekly here, but we could just sort of hold a range through here, there's nothing too strong on that yet, but supporting holding a decent structure at the moment. Apple is also looking okay. So this came down, hit a 3 month demand, again bounced the retest, or came back up into monthly supply, and it has held the retest. Quite close to a weekly supply here. Whereas I think Amazon had a bit more space above, so if we do get the move up, it's possible we get Amazon's going to allow for a move higher. Or lower, and whereas Apple doesn't have much space for a move higher or to support the indices moving substantially higher. But good for holding at the moment. Google. So yeah, we did have a hit on a weekly demand here, but obviously this is a weaker structure. But I think this is, I can't remember in percentage terms. I've got a feeling this might have dropped less than some of the others. It might be a little bit behind. But at least anyway, all the others drop back into monthlies, whereas Google, I think, hasn't had a monthly yet. It's made monthly supply, but it hasn't actually hit a monthly demand yet. So this, I've got 61 fib is on the non-log. So I've got an alert down there for the next monthly demand. And at the moment, we just come off the weekly, and again, small weekly demand made, scope to move up higher there. Tesla, as far as I got before, is one of the weaker ones. Sorry, the only thing actually I should also point out with some of these, and Google and Tesla I think are the two, we do have a chance these are going to create a 2 month supply. So we've got 7 days until that happens, and I think that's consistent across the indices as well. Like, as the indices, continue to bounce and hold, and even if they come down to that weekly demand and bounce in the next week, then they're going to need to break back up over, or the monthly supply is going to convert to a 2 monthly supply. But either way, Google monthly supply in there, so while it's got scope to go up, may not actually go very far. Tesla again is one of the weaker ones, like Google, but again it had held better previously. But the thing with this is it's come through, this is a 6 month demand, and it's not a great one because we've gone up and we've come straight back down into it, and we like the rounded retest rather than an immediate candle straight back down into it, so that's why I didn't alert or want it there, or want any alert there. Again, might make this 2 month supply, so I just put a dash line if I'm just tentatively looking at it. We do have a 2 month demand right below, but obviously that's got scope to go lower. On the weekly, obviously we're in a weekly demand, so could get a bounce here, but not looking overly great at the moment. But yeah, you'd need to see, if you're trading this, you need to go down to some dailies and things like that. We are at the start of an impulse. We do have probably at least an ABC going down there, so it's possible this is going to swing fairly and break back over. But just watch out for that monthly, the confirmation or potential confirmation of monthly supply in there. Microsoft, I did actually have an alert on this on the 2 month demand there, so we have got a little bounce off that. But we've got monthly supply in here, which may or may not confirm to 2 monthly supply. So yeah, a little bit of scope on this to go back up still. So what I'm seeing so far, I guess, is that the first few we have space to go up to a higher supply, which again makes sense from the Nasdaq perspective, because Nasdaq hasn't come up to test anything significant as yet either. So let's have a quick look at that. So Nasdaq, yeah. So there's a weekly all the way back up here, which is in line obviously with what we're seeing on the equities. So if we're going to get any strength off this, and the risk, I guess, is what the weaker ones, Google, Tesla, that we've just seen are going to do, you know, are they going to hold weeklies? They're going to hold where they are, or are they going to break lower? Because if they break lower, this will probably be taken down back into those lower demands that I wanted. But to the upside, we definitely have some scope if we can hold for now on the weaker ones, and if the strong ones take over, and then we could potentially get a move. So we've got this, yeah, so the 2 monthly may or may not confirm in here, and is a monthly. It's already rejected off the monthly and come down and made a new low, so that's essentially played out. So then, yeah, you're looking for, is this weekly going to hold and take a move up into here, or is the weekly not going to hold? We're going to like have just a really poor test on this monthly, and it's going to take us lower. Excuse me. So yeah, Microsoft has held 2 monthly demand there, scope to go higher into the weekly. Meta just continues to look quite shit, really. So this actually had an annual demand, which we've basically run all the way through now, and possible swing failure of the lows, but can't say I like that until I actually see structure break back to the upside, particularly on something like this that's just starting to look quite crappy. To get that weekly out of there, so obviously the weekly didn't hold on that. So this, we've got a potential 2 monthly supply that's going to get put in close to the price, and monthly right in there as well. So yes, could get the swing fail off here, but so it's got scope to go up, but not really showing any signs of going up particularly as yet, apart from a bit of green today. So yeah, having said that, you know, it's at support, so obviously I'm not saying short this at support, you know, but if we come back up into here and this is a rejection, then potentially you could short that back down. Netflix was one of the stronger ones I had from a few weeks ago, so that obviously took its sweet time about it, but that was, I think, there was one of two that I said to long, but I then forgot what the other one was. But at least one of you can watch my 2 videos ago, then you can see if that one worked out as well. But this was one, so now we've got a monthly demand in here, so that's more promising on Netflix. So we've got a consolidation through here that could pick up support. Like, it's not one I particularly like to draw. I prefer to draw when you're drawing from the left here, rather than, you know, sort of saying this is a weekly in here. But what I draw and what I trade, as most people know, are 2 different things. I like to draw everything so I know what's going on, but that doesn't necessarily mean I trade everything, or everything is, you know, like high probability tradable. So anyway, yeah, a little move off Netflix off that. Bit more scope to get up to the weekly. Could retrace more of this drop. Scope to go up, and decent level to have bounced at here. I think that was a monthly off the lows, or a 2 monthly. Bit choppy. Yeah, I mean, just with the chop through here, it's not ideal, but not too much value I can add on that. Nvidia was one of the weaker ones as well. So that's below 61 fib and dropped back through 3 months supply. So not ideal on this. Hasn't closed down there yet, but oh sorry, has closed down there. Hasn't closed and broken the wicks, but so still at possible swing failure level, but still not ideal. Has created a 2 month supply already. So this isn't great, and this is one of the ones that I use also for Bitcoin, so not overly promising there. Could, yeah, not loving it. Still a downtrend on here. Yes, could have pushed up to the monthly. Again, could be a swing failure, but looking more like a breakdown at this stage, and probably expect it to drop into here at some stage. What's the log fib? Not even close on a log fib. That's obviously fibbing the entire price history of the thing. Let's just fib the. So 78 is a bit lower, 88 obviously a lot lower, but yeah, at this stage is looking likely to come down here. If it reclaims here and holds, then maybe we can look for a move up, but at the moment that's not good. PayPal. So We do have a monthly supply on this. Also not looking overly promising. Not going to convert to 2 monthly. Starting to look a little more bearish as we come down to the tail end of the Nasdaq ones, which explains why we're seeing more of those drops on Nasdaq. And yeah, but again, coming into weekly demand here, so much like some of the others have already tested this, so maybe PayPal's just a bit behind. So for example, if you look at, I mean, it didn't drop as much, but if you look at Amazon, you know, it's come back and tested that same consolidation and has had the initial bounce, and PayPal just hasn't quite made it down there yet. But PayPal is obviously a lot more bearish overall, has a lot bigger drop than Amazon or some of the others, but is just about holding support. Unfortunately, also, yeah, it looks like it could follow the way of Nvidia, so I can't say I'm overly confident on PayPal at the moment. Costco, better. This is the one of the ones I was a little unsure of. I didn't like the head and shoulders on it, but it was whether that it was going to pick up this monthly again as support with this as just a stop hunt through it. So that does look like it's happened, so that's good. Better. But it's still, I mean, it's consolidation at these highs. So we had a 2 month in here, which got rejected, bounced up, rejected. So yeah, on the macro, we do kind of expect lower on this, but if it's picked up support and we've just got this swing failure, then again, so it's got space for a push higher. So at the moment, yeah, I mean, it's just kind of 50-50, isn't it? I mean, some of them are pointing to the possibility of Nasdaq taking a little bit of a move higher, and most of them have a new weekly demand below. So obviously support Nasdaq holding the weekly demand should it go down there. It's going to be the smaller ones at the end of this. ASML holding 2 month demand. Also got weekly demand, but then there's a whole host of supply in here. Don't like equities charts for the choppiness. Hard to know where to put your levels in exactly. It's not set at the moment to create 2 monthly supply, but so yeah, all of these are kind of looking like they've got the weekly demand, but then yeah, so sort of going down to all of these. I'll have a quick look at AMD just from a Bitcoin perspective. Okay, so that's down in a weekly and a monthly demand there, so there's a bit of hope for that. And Zoom is very hideous, like Peloton these days, but again is in 6 month demand, monthly demand on the base of it. All these guys that did so well in COVID and have died ever since. Shouldn't really be putting that 2 month in yet, but anyway, I'm not actually thinking this is probably going to come back between now and the end of the month. So yeah, that's likely to have 2 months supply. It's possible some of the others get a random pump. You never know, maybe this will, but you know, so yes, in demand, but you know, arguably, so each of these bounces we're getting on in demand, but we need to start seeing the uptrend. So you know, you can see it push here, but it hasn't broken the last down move. So again, here still hasn't broken the last down move. Could get a second push off here for a move at least up into the monthly, but still in a downtrend until we see otherwise. So while these things are on fairly significant support, we haven't got any structures that tell us that they should the bigger drops should be longed anyway. So yeah, let's have a quick back to the beginning. So Amazon has demand, has supply, space to supply. Apple close to supply, also has demand. Google bit of space to supply. Tesla weaker. Microsoft okay and space to supply. Meta horrible. Netflix good and good for a retest if you want to buy a retest of that consolidation, or even at 190 if the mark, sorry, 198 to the $200 mark on that monthly below. If we come down there, that's still worth a buy. Yeah, unfortunately I'm a little bit 50-50 on this. Not much to help at the moment. There's certainly some poor things, but I mean, you know, this might just contribute to having a bit more of sideways action on NASDAQ. Let's see if the Dow has anything, because obviously the Dow's a bit stronger. So here you obviously can see that we've pushed back through a weekly. So Johnson & Johnson come off 3-month demand quite nicely, and back now just up in weekly supply and looking okay for now. But in supply. So of note in supply, because we do have the Dow. While the Dow is stronger, the Dow is in supply. So if all of these are in supply too, then we need to obviously be a little bit careful of longing the Dow, or we're going to expect to see that drop off the monthly that was alerted today. United Health was always one of the stronger ones, has held the 2-month really well there, and also straight back, well, from some wicks, so for a couple of weeks into supply, but straight back through. Small weekly supply that we're coming into now. Double top, fairly likely to take out the double top, I'd say here. But back in supply as well. So I guess at least for those first two, could get a breakout, possible, but supporting where the Dow is in supply at the moment. Coca-Cola, 6-month demand, pretty nice. I think that might have been my other one that I was alerted. Off 6-month demand, 2-month in, well, 6-month inside a 2-month. Monthly supply is a long way up. Didn't quite tap it on the previous candle. So that has some scope to go up. Interesting times. But so far those three at least are supporting the Dow having hit the macro demand. And then the weeklies are just sort of local. Visa was a little bit weaker, but obviously been consolidating a really long time. I just pointed at the screen then like you could see me. So we've got 3-month supply and 3-month demand. So it came off 3-month supply, went straight down to 3-month demand. A few wicks into it. Could create a 2-month supply, does have a monthly supply. So while it's got a little bit of space, that's more like a distribution pattern there. So while we are in a significant demand, and we shouldn't be overly bearish because of that, you know, it is obviously a clear downtrend. So we just need to see the reaction of this monthly supply. Excuse me, I feel like my cough's about to kick in again. I haven't even been coughing, I swear. It's just when you start talking, isn't it? So yeah, Walmart's another one, hit 3-month demand. And it's up in 6-month supply. I haven't updated these properly, or they didn't save, because I change my dash lines to solid lines when they're confirmed normally. So what happened with Walmart? So yeah, Walmart did go up into the 6-month supply and did drop, but not hard. So again, this is looking like it's got a bit of space, but still back at the 6-month level here. But solid from the demand side. Procter & Gamble, also 6-month demand. You know, obviously another couple of months till the end of the year, but obviously we need to see that push back up so it doesn't confirm a flip of that zone above. It was on a news hit on, a lower 6-month demand, second hit on it. Does have 2 months supply up here, could. And I was actually, to be honest, I was actually considering this on the indices. You know, they just didn't quite get on the most recent highs, the last wave up that we've just dropped down from. It didn't quite get as high as I wanted them to. So I keep sort of looking at them and thinking, you know, and it's so hard to think like that when the whole world is so bearish. But I keep looking at them thinking, could we go back up and take out the highs, the recent highs? Oh, let me just show you what I mean. So like, oh, switch windows. SPX, for example, stopped here, and it was a monthly level, and there is a weekly level in there, but I wanted just a bit higher. So I do keep looking at these charts thinking, well, we've come off 2 month demand. I can honestly see it going up to here. But with the entire rest of the world saying we're going into recession and the markets are all crap, I feel like maybe I'm being an idiot for thinking that, you know, and I haven't really been trading these that long. So while I, you know, my style of trading is obviously just trading supply and demand of varying probabilities as and when they're hit, and then you just gauge reactions and looking at the structure of the thing. It feels quite, yeah. And you know, these things are very volatile anyway. I mean, sorry, not volatile, but also obviously we could come up, and you know, now we've got the volatility here. But they don't, you know, you can't with certainty say something is going to come back to test something, because you know, in history they have gone up indefinitely, and you know, then they come back and test something. You know, there isn't clean structure here in many cases to be able to say where they're going to test. And even it's been really interesting actually watching the 6 that I've had recently alongside each other, and watching how they test, and even just from a learning TA perspective, you know, like I said earlier, like some of these have come up over here, others haven't, and then I'm trying to look at like why is SPX, and it's generally due to the strength of the supply and demand, but it gives quite good insight. So SPX, for example, has come off for 2 months, it's come up quite high in here. DJI, as I said, has come off for 6 months, and therefore is in a much more obvious uptrend on the lower time frames. NASDAQ, which I went off by mistake, you know, hasn't really come off anything decent, so therefore NASDAQ is showing, did that work? So NASDAQ is one of the weaker ones to look at, you know, and still hasn't broken the last down move. It's still just really consolidating around here, but again, hasn't come off to decent demand. So while it's following the same trajectory as everything else, it's definitely got a lot less power in it. Anyway, I digress. Back to Procter & Gamble. So yeah, 6 month demand. So yeah, I mean, I guess all of these ones are supporting what we see on DJI. JP Morgan, that's another decent move there. So in the case of this, so this has come out of an annual zone. So I just can't, so when like everybody's super bearish, but when I look from a pure TA perspective, and you know, okay, maybe guess that isn't, maybe that's out of touch with the rest of the world, and obviously things do break down, like at some stage, maybe JP Morgan is going to go into a downtrend on an annual basis, and that maybe is the sign of recession, but at least until these zones break, I can't really say that definitively, or I can't really trade otherwise. You know, I'm still trading based on TA, not based on fundamentals, and the TA here is that we've hit an annual demand. In this case could have gone a bit lower. We've already come up and tested this monthly supply once, and now we're coming up for a second look. So this, you know, on the second test you expect probably to push a bit higher. So while the rest of the world is super bearish, I appear to be, I'm sure I'm not the only one, but I appear to be one of few that is less bearish on. I'm still more bearish on tech stocks, but on DJI, I'm more positive about, and some of the other indices. And I still, you know, I mean, even if these high time frame zones that we see on, use this as an example, that we see on the indices, even if we don't get the move up, you know, strictly structure, you know, if we're doing a, you know, that's what we're looking at. But you know, maybe we're not going to get that with the state of the world. Maybe we're going to get like this for a few years before we get more up, and or maybe we get the bigger reversal. But you know, we still do expect the first hit on a high time frame demand to get a reaction, and then you gauge the reaction against whatever supply has been made in the interim. And as you can see, here's having a decent reaction. And the same with DJI, so, and you know, Chevron there, super strong. That's just come down off a weekly demand. Obviously didn't really break any significant structure here anyway, more just in a range. So Chevron's still looking promising. Is this made a new monthly? Yeah, so this is potentially going to make a new monthly demand as well. So, you know, again, like I say, I haven't been following this long enough. It'd be really interesting to see where the 2 months closes. You know, is it possible that DJI, being the top 30 companies, goes up while the rest of the market, or while Nasdaq and SPX are weaker? Will they all go up but DJI will go more and the others will go up less, or will they all go down and DJI will go down but hold better, or maybe not break the 6 month demand? So those are the kind of things we're looking at. Yeah, so obviously Chevron's looking fairly decent here, although again it is coming into high time frame supply. Home Depot, it's the second hit on a 3 month there, and so I guess this is just where we're seeing the battle, and it's exactly the same battle you see on DJI, that, you know, we've come off 6 monthly demand and we're, in this case 3 month, but DJI 6 month, and we've just hit monthly supply. So we're just looking for what range happens through here. Is this monthly supply going to be stronger and is going to push us down deeper in the demands across all of these, or break them, or are we just going to continue this eternal uptrend that we've had for, you know, since this just goes back and back since the 1970s. Anyway, so the TLDR version, I think, is seeing the strength on the Dow stocks as we'd expect, and the Dow responding accordingly. However, they are all at resistance now, so we need to be a little bit careful. The resistances, for the most part, the supplies are of a lower time frame than the demands. So I'm still at the moment expecting, even if we get some retracements into the weeklies, that the Dow is likely to push higher. On the Nasdaq tech stocks, I'm a bit more 50-50. I think we've all got the weekly demand, so I guess I want to see those react, and then they're going to go back up into, so let's go back to Amazon. So likely to come back down into here, and as we're seeing Nasdaq dropping today, assuming it hasn't changed since I've been doing this, likely to see this weekly retested, hopefully hold, and then for a push into the other weekly. Expecting more weakness on Nasdaq. What about the earnings situation? Do we have earnings going? I don't know if it's the end. It's probably the end of year earnings now, isn't it? Or do we still have Q3? Is Q3 released now, perhaps? Or has that already happened? Not sure. Shows how not across this stuff I am. And maybe I put earnings on the chart. I can actually see. That might be more sensible. Event earnings on chart. Give me earnings. Did I just not click the box? Oh, here we go. Okay, so we've got earnings like this week, right? So we're going to expect some volatility in these then, for sure. And yeah, that's when we may see Nasdaq at least make some movements in either direction. Just back, but it could, in the case of Nasdaq, it could just be back and forth according to the earnings as they're released. So I'm going to have to look at the calendar now and figure out what's when. Because yeah, so as I said, we've got, Tesla not looking overly promising, Google looking okay, but still only on a weekly zone, so I prefer it lower, and also with monthly supply above. So we could see, earnings either drop these or take them up into supplies before drops, but we might just see Nasdaq like wick around a bit this week. And unless, it's possible, I guess, that one of these has particularly negative earnings, which then drops Nasdaq back into one of the higher time frame zones below. I would prefer to see hit rather than this sort of slightly random bounce level. Obviously down here would be a significant drop, and we'll probably rely on everything having really bad earnings, which is possible. But at least I mark this one. It's a weekly demand, the next weekly demand, and filling this gap here. And that I would probably be more confident of than this sort of random. Actually, yeah, the only thing that was here is that we have swing failed that low on the monthly, and also in fact swing failed these two lows on the monthly. So that's kind of the only thing in Nasdaq's favour, and that could, just to be awkward, give about a slightly unexpected bounce in somewhere that I wouldn't typically trade. Yeah, so anyway, as usual, I've probably been going longer than I should have done. Not much more to say. Any questions, give me a shout in the chat.